TCA cycle. So pyruvate become acylic coenzyme H, right? It's the starting of TCA cycle. So acylic coenzyme is here. So like this, coenzyme A hold acidic acid and go to TCA cycle and release, right? Like this, right? So acylic coenzyme A is release acetic acid. Class, did you remember how many carbon? It has 2 carbon, is right? It's give to the TCA cycle. So this is TCA cycle. And acetic acid, but which molecule is waiting for this acetic acid? Is oxaloacetate, right? So oxaloacetate, how many carbon? 4 carbon is waiting for acetic acid, and with this acetic acid and oxaloacetate become citrate, is right? And 4 carbon, 2 carbon right now is 6 carbon, is right? And this acidic coenzyme A, actually coenzyme A give to the acetic acid to TCA cycle, and is coenzyme A is right now is free, like empty Uber taxi, and go to stage 2 of glycolysis to get a more acidic acid, is right? So this citrate is just little arrangement become isocitrate. So 6 carbon again. So this is the reaction 1, this is reaction 2, and reaction 3 and reaction 4 is very similar. So when you memorize or when you understand, this is kind of really help you. Reaction 3 and reaction 4 is very similar. Which kind of reaction? So it release 1 CO2. Oh, it's mean 1 carbon release is right. So it means anyway this one is kind of 5 carbon because it release 1 CO2. And reaction 4 release another CO2. It means this kind of intermediate, it should be 4 carbon, is right? So actually this one is alpha keto glutarate, and this one succinyl, coenzyme A, is right? Oh, we need the coenzyme A too. And very similar reaction, release 1 CO2, 1 CO2, and at the time is release 2 proton. Many textbooks didn't show, but there are 2 electron too, right? And it same, it release 2 proton and 2 electron, is right? So this case, enzyme, a coenzyme, NAD plus to come and be reduced NADH plus proton, and NAD plus to come and reduce NADH plus proton. See, it's exactly same reaction, so it's much easier to understand, right? Using like this. And succinyl coenzyme A, it should become succinate, is right? Succinate. Succinyl coenzyme A, this coenzyme A get out from here using that energy, we can resynthesize GDP as well as inorganic phosphate, and it's become GTP. But this GTP can resynthesize ADP to ATP, right? Oh, so this reaction release GTP, or we can just say it release ATP. So ATP release reaction. So this is reaction 5, and reaction 6 is become fumarate. When succinate to become fumarate, it release 2 proton, 2 electron again. So this case NAD plus. I'm sorry. So here. So here is coenzyme is different, right? It's fumarate, right? It's much easier to understand. F. So here FAD reduced using to receive 2 proton, 2 electron has become FADH2. Right? So this is different, right? TCA cycle, other place is release NADH plus proton, but reaction 6, right? When succinate become fumarate, it reduce FAD to FADH2. Right? Doesn't make sense. And fumarate should become malate. To do this one, we need water. we need water. Let's put the water. But this is very smart because we need more NADH plus proton. This case using this hydrogen, right? And when malate become oxaloacetate, we can release 2 proton and 2 electron again. Actually, this one from the water, right? So NAD plus again to reduce NADH plus proton. So this is a TCA cycle and become oxaloacetate. And this 4 carbon, but there are no released CO2 is right. So this is why succinate 4 carbon and fumarate 4 carbon, malate 4 carbon. Yeah. So this is TCA cycle. The important thing is the net production. So how about I can write TCA cycle. We know TCA cycle is right. So one acyl coenzyme A, one cycle is one cycle, right? We have 2 CO2 is right. 1, 2. And how many NADH proton? 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm sorry. 3, right? So 3 NADH plus proton. And how many FADH2? Oh, here, 1. So 1 FADH2. And how many ATP or GTP? But usually we call just ATP. So 1 ATP. So the net production of one acyl coenzyme A is like this. Is right. But however, starting G6P, glucose 6 phosphate, or glucose or glycogen. So we have a G3P and become pyruvate, right? We have 2 pyruvate. So it means 1 glucose or 1 glycogen molecule, 2 acyl coenzyme A, because 2 pyruvate. So this case, if we need oxidized 2 acyl coenzyme A, this case our the total production is 4 CO2, 6 NADH plus proton, and 2 FADH2 and 2 ATP. Yeah. How about class? Does it make sense? Yes. So interesting thing is, right, we have only 2 ATPs, right? Wow, it's 1 glucose molecule in the mitochondria, but release only 2 ATP, right? Because we need more capacity, we need more production of ATP. So how can we get ATP? You already learned from the electron transfer system using my another lecture video. So how about if ETC system is here, ETC, right? So outer membrane, inner membrane is right. It's inner membrane. Inner membrane, there are complex 1, complex 2, complex 3. This is actually proton pump and ATP synthesis. Is right? So ETC system. Wow, ETC. Electron transport chain. So it's waiting for electron. Where is electron? So here, this kind of reaction release proton at the same time electron is right. So NADH plus proton, actually it has proton as electron. But many textbook didn't write electron is here. Yeah, we do not need. So this is why sometimes students confuse. But if you think NADH plus proton has 2 proton, 2 electron, this is why electron transport chain. So electron transport chain system is waiting for electron. Doesn't make sense? So NADH plus proton to go to, right? Where? So complex 1 site is right. Oh, I forgot to write down. Oh, I'm sorry. There are cytochrome Q and C is right. So it's here, right? Cytochrome Q and cytochrome C, right? Mobile carrier Q, mobile carrier C is right. So it's here. NADH to come here plus proton and release 2 proton, release 2 electron and become NAD plus, right? Yeah. And this NAD plus go back to here. So cute. How Dr. Gon explained where Uber taxi is right. Give 2 proton, 2 electron and go back to here to get more proton and electron is right. And this electron is kind of electricity. So it's energized this proton pump. So energized, and this proton is moved back to the intermembrane space. Is right? So proton is here. Is right? And this electron, the name is electron transport chain. So this electron move to here and here and here, but at the same time is moved to the complex 2, is activate this complex 2. So there are proton is here, is already there. Right? So this proton can be pumped in the intermembrane space. Is right? And this one too, because electron transport to here and transportation like electricity, so it's a pump. This proton is around here. Right? So proton and proton and proton and proton. Right? And finally, electron is here, but this electron go to the oxygen, and there are another proton, oxygen with this electron and become water. Is right? This is metabolic water. Is right? And right now there are lots of proton is here. So whenever this proton move back, there are already ADP and inorganic phosphate is here. So using this first, we can resynthesize ATP, and we use this ATP right, to our cell walk. This is electron transport chain system. Its important thing is NADH plus proton start complex 1. So this is why it release 1, 2, 3. So 3 ATP. However, FADH2. This FADH2 come here, start after complex 1. Is right? So it's a skip. Is this complex 1. So it release 1 ATP, another 1 ATP, so 2 ATP. So and NADH plus proton is release 3 ATP. However, FADH2 it release 2 ATP because it use different complexes, right? 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Yeah. So this is why it's important. Did you remember, right? So how about glycolysis, right? This is water. This is the like a blood vessel. Glucose can enter, and or glycogen, right? It's become glucose 6-phosphate, and it's become G3P and G3P and become pyruvate. Today I explain pyruvate is right. Pyruvate enter. How about I just explain it here? So this is mitochondria. Pyruvate enter. Pyruvate dehydration reaction, squeeze this pyruvate, so release 1 CO2, become acetic acid, and with coenzyme A, it's become acyl coenzyme A, and this acyl coenzyme A here is right. Doesn't make sense. And at that time, it's release another proton and another electron, so NAD plus reduce NADH plus proton, right? So this NADH proton go to the right complex 1 site and release 3 ATP. Wow, there are many ATPs, right? If we have NADH plus proton and FAD2 is right. So this is why when you eat food, right? Actually, our metabolism to squeeze, to oxidize, to release proton and electron and send to the in the mitochondria ETC system and release lots of ATP. We use that ATP, is right. So this is how mitochondria is important. And here, glucose 6. G3P release 2 proton, 2 electron is right. And here too, right. So this case, NAD plus reduce NADH plus proton, right? But you know, is right. This NADH plus proton at the inner membrane is reduced FAD to FADH2 is right. See, this FADH2 to come to here after complex 1 and is using 2 complex and release 2 ATP. So this is why some textbook they put the NAD, not FAD. So many exercise physics textbook, they have a different ATP production. Is right? Right. So, but this case, our case, in skeletal muscle, from the step 6 of glycolysis, using the NADH plus proton, we reduce FAD to FADH2. So it's kind of like a include TCA cycle as well as ETC system and glycolysis. It's kind of big picture, right? So I think it will help you to understand this better. Thank you very much.